Thank you, David. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, appreciate it, David. And it's been a pleasure working with you today. This presentation on iOS 11 is limited. And so obviously I can't cover all of the new features that iOS 11 has. What I basically did was go through most of the features that are available, and the ones that I use, I'm going to talk the most about. I'm not going to demonstrate using my iPad or iPhone because that takes up too much time. And if you need to get some more detailed information about anything that I talk about today, you can Google it. When you do, be careful about the date associated with the answer you get when you Google, because there are a bunch of information out there on the internet that is based on what Apple wanted to put out and didn't finish, and so you can get some you can get some bad information about what's really there. It's getting better now that iOS 11 has been on the street for a couple of weeks, and the fact of the matter is there's a lot of information on the internet about what's happening. I don't have an Apple Pencil or an iPad Pro, so I'm going to talk very little about those, but let's get started. iOS 11 basically came out with a 64-bit applications, and so there are some 32-bit apps that have to be updated. Now, reality is Apple told all these people that supply apps that they were going to 64-bit compatibility back in October of 2014. So they've had almost 3 years to get their stuff together and update their app for 64 bits. Unfortunately, there's about 500,000 apps that are left behind because they're 32-bit apps, and they won't work with iOS 11. And I have a 6S Plus phone, a 5S phone, and 2 iPads, and I've downloaded iOS 11 on all 4 of those devices with no problems at all. So let's talk about the major new features. I like the new App Store they have. It's much more user-friendly, whatever that means, but it allows you to get in and see what's going on and also find what you're looking for. There's different Siri that's available, and I don't know that it's more realistic, but it is very proactive. I like that. Improvements in camera and photos, which I'm not too familiar with personally because I'm not that kind of photo guy, but I do like the new control center that iOS 11 has, and I really like the new Files app that they came out with. So the biggest release in iOS 11 goes to the iPads. There's more information and more features when you're talking about iPads than just talking about iPhones. And of course, they have that new keyboard feature with the iPad where you can swipe down and pick what you want to use when you're using the keyboard. This is a list of the phones and the iPads that still are out there and can be used with iOS 11. If you don't have one of these devices, then iOS 11 is not going to be downloaded on your device. And of course, Apple, just like everybody else, when they came out with iOS 11, they had some problems. So they immediately came out with an iOS 11.0.1, and then they came out very shortly after that with a 0.2, and then they came out very shortly after that with a 0.3, and I downloaded all 3 of those with no problems. And now, actually, there's an iOS 11.1 that's out, and I've downloaded that. So let's talk about the App Store a little bit. They have some new features like what's going on today. They have games and apps, and within that you can see the things that people are using, the editor's choice, or you can browse by category if you want to get into some kind of game in a certain category. And then you can move around in the App Store a lot easier than in previous iOS systems. When you go to get an app, if it says get, it means it's free, so you tap on the get. And if you want to get an app that has a price associated with it, then of course you tap on the price. If you take a look at the product page before you do get an app, you're going to find out more about it, and it may change your mind about adding that app to your device. Across the bottom of the screen, they have five selections, today, games, apps, update, and search. And a lot of times when you're looking at an app that you want to get, you'll see in very small print the words in-app purchases. Well, what that means is it's probably for free, or you're paying a very low price for it, and you're going to get additional extra content or subscriptions popping up while you're using the device. Multitasking. This is a big thing with iOS 11, and now we can perform simultaneous functions on more than one app at a time. I've already started to use this. I like it very much. You got slide over, you got split view, you got picture on picture. I'm not too sure I want to watch a video and do email at the same time, but that's in fact what you can do. And of course, the app switcher has been improved so that it's always ready to be opened and used. App switcher being that page that you can bring up on your device so you can switch from one app to the next without going back to the home page and reselecting. The dock has been improved in both iPad and iPhone, and now again you have left-hand side of the dock where you put the ones that you use most frequently, and the right-hand side of the dock can be the ones that you've recently used. So it's easy to go back to an app that you were using just a couple minutes ago. You can also swipe up anytime you're doing anything on your device, and the dock will come up. The dock being that line across the bottom that shows the most frequently used apps and the ones that you recently have been using. You can customize the dock. On my iPad 9.7 size, I could get 13 apps on the left-hand side, and you can just drag and drop them there. I don't know how many you can get on a phone, but it depends, again, on the screen size, etc. I like to move my apps around frequently, and now you don't have to do that wiggle or jiggle thing that was required in previous iOSs, and you can just move the apps around from the dock back to the home page, etc. Very easy to do. And I, in fact, I'm constantly rearranging my apps on my home page or on my dock. Slide over. Slide over is a thing where you can take something from the dock and slide it up onto your page display of another app or the home page, and then you can see both things simultaneously. So you swipe up from the bottom, and you touch and hold and drag it up there, and then both apps are in fact active at the same time. And you can have it either on the left-hand side of the screen or on the right-hand side of the screen. So slide over working good. Split view is a new thing that's been improved. It's actually not a new thing, but it's been improved. And the fact of the matter is now it allows you to put two apps in equal proportion on each side of your screen and then work seamlessly between the two of them. And in fact, you can drag and drop something from one app into the other one. So drag and drop is a big improvement in iOS 11. On the iPad Pro, you can have up to 2 slide overs on the apps, active on the third. And so that means that you have some other kind of configuration instead of 50-50. I don't have an iPad Pro, so I haven't tried that yet. Work with 2 apps at the same time. You can switch using gestures. You can use the app switcher. And when you use the app switcher on an iPad or an iPhone, it's slightly different. But again, you can see all the apps that are open in the background, switch between them. You can double click the home button to bring up the app switcher, or you can swipe up from the bottom of the screen with one finger, and that's the way you do it on an iPad. Switching apps is very easy now. You can do a switch app, left or right, 4 or 5 fingers on the screen, slowly drag across, and it'll switch from one app to the next. And here's a new feature I like. If you have apps open and you want to go back to your home screen, all you have to do is put 4 fingers on the screen and pinch them together. And it'll close the apps that you have on the screen and bring back your home screen. Really neat feature, I think. Maps, Apple Maps. Joyce and I were up in Michigan this summer, and we saw the Apple Maps vehicle on the road going down and gathering information. It was quite interesting. We followed the vehicle for about 10 miles and just talking about, gee, what is this guy really doing? But yes, they've added lane assist and speed limits to Apple Maps, and now you can also do this do not disturb thing. Your device will sense that you're driving in a car. And so if you have do not disturb enabled, it will block notifications, messages, or phone calls. And they will get an automatic message if you set it up that way to say, I'm sorry, I'm driving right now. Excuse me, I'm driving right now, and I'll get back to you when I get to my destination. Of course, that emergency thing is still there. And I've told my 3 kids and other people in my family that if they try to call me and I have do not disturb engaged, that if they call back within 3 minutes using the same device that they called the first time, the second phone call will go through. Apple also says they have detailed maps of hundreds of airports and shopping centers, just in case you want to know how to get around the airport before you get there. And this is what Apple Map lane changes, speed limit, etc. will look like. So you can do a zoom in with double tap and swipe. You can also do flyovers with iOS 11 just by moving your device around, and that's cool if you like to do a flyover, which is looking at some place that you cannot visit, so you use your Apple conveniences to do that. I've done flyovers of Rome, and I've done flyovers of the Grand Canyon. Neat. Tap, drag, and drop. It's the going thing now. We've been able to drag and drop in Windows, and now you can do it on your iPhone and your iPad. Photoshop has many different layers that you can use tap, drag, and drop on. If you're doing a slide over, you can drag it into animation I haven't had the opportunity to try all of these steps, but I have in fact done some drag and drop from a Windows app, Microsoft Windows app, into a PowerPoint app on my iPad, and I really like it. So it's a two-step process, and you can do multiple files using more than one finger, and the app developers got to catch up with this. Right? They need to integrate drag and drop into their apps, and many of them already have. A neat feature, something to try out. Screenshots. When I was watching the previous presentation, I took some screenshots on my computer by using the print screen function and pasting it into WordPad. But now on your iOS device, when you take a screenshot, you get a little preview window, and I'll show you a picture of that in a second. To take a screenshot, you have to hold down the home button and the sleep button simultaneously, and then let them go simultaneously, and you take a screenshot of what's up there. And normally it ends up right away into your Photos app. Well, now that preview image comes up, and you can play with the preview image. You can doodle and draw on it. You can highlight a certain street intersection, as it says. And on the iPad Pro, you can use your Apple Pencil to do so. So let's take a look at what that really looks like. This is a screenshot of what's on the phone on a certain screen. And when you take the screenshot, you get a little thumbnail down in the corner, which I have put a red circle around. Now you can take that screenshot that shows up down in the corner, and you can do lots of different things with it. If you touch the little square with the arrow coming out of it, then you're going to get this kind of display, and you can do any or all of these things with the screenshot that you've just taken. Put it in a message, mail it, add it to notes, Twitter, Facebook, print, create, save the files, etc. If you don't want to do that, you can touch one of these things here, and now you can scribble on that screenshot. You could write a note right across the bottom here using this pencil as an example, and write the note in your own handwriting, and then you can save it. Neat. I really like this added features for taking a screenshot. A new control center. Biggest change that they've had in a long time about the control center. In the old control center, we know if you swipe up from the bottom of the screen, you get a control center, and it was 2 pages, so you had to go from left to right depending on what you want to do. No, Now on your phone, the control center takes up the whole screen, and you can customize it with a lot of different things. Now, there are certain things that you cannot change, move, or disable in the control center, and that's airplane mode, music play off, screen orientation, do not disturb, etc., etc. But other controls are customizable, and where Apple is always adding other things that you can customize in the control center as they become available through the different apps. If you want detailed information, there's a good resource right there, imore.com Control Center. You can manage the control center, and you can add the following apps at this point in time: flashlight, timer, calculator, camera, text size, wallet, notes, etc., etc., etc. Also, if you have a 3D touch device, i.e., if you press harder on the screen, that's a 3D touch device, you can get some additional options from the control center. Example: music icon, play controls are accessible by default. If you push on it then it opens up the song with more information, and you can control that. Control 3D control has been kind of hard for me to get used to because I just sometimes forget how hard I'm pushing on my screen. The 3D touch are available in a lot of different settings, and they work a little bit different on the iPad than they do on the iPhone. Okay, swipe up from the bottom on the iPad opens up the whole 9 yards, the control center and your app switcher. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. If you swipe up from the bottom on your phone, all you get is the control center. It's handy because on the iPad, you may want to do the control center and then immediately go back to an app. So let's take a look at what we're seeing here. This is your iPad control center. It's a simple swipe up from the bottom. You get the control center on the right-hand side, and you get the app switcher on the left-hand side all the way across. And of course, you can move amongst all those apps. On your phone over here, when you swipe up from the bottom, you get the control center with all of its different customized things, but no app switcher. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Oh, excuse me. This is this is another shot of things that you can go. When you go into settings, you go to control center, you can customize and you can add or subtract things in the control center that you want to. Over here, you see flashlight, and then these 3 lines over here very faintly. I'm sorry, but that's the way it came out. That's called a hamburger, and when you touch that, you can move it up and down to include it or not include it. And there's a long list of things that you can add to the control center from your settings. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This is something that confuses me, and why Apple did it is understandable, but it still can be confusing. The last time I took a flight, the flight attendant made an announcement across the plane, and she said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to put your iPhone or your smartphone on airplane mode, and if you don't know how to do that, I got a 4-year-old in the back of the plane that can show you." Well, now with iOS 11, if you go to the control center and turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, it disconnects the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for network use. It does not disconnect the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for all of the other features that are available with iPhones and iPads, being AirDrop, AirPlay, Apple Pencil, Apple Watch, handoff, hotspot, and location services. So I don't know how they're going to treat that on the airplane. If you want to turn it off completely, you really have to go to settings and then open up Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and shut them off from there. Another nice feature with iOS 11 is if somebody comes over to your house and you both have iPhones or iPads and they want to hook up to your Wi-Fi, then all you have to do is get the devices close to each other and their Wi-Fi will turn on your network. The trick works, but both devices have to be running iOS 11. It's kind of nice because then you don't have to tell everybody what your network SSID and password are. Again, disconnecting from Wi-Fi on the networks, you open up the control center and you tap on Wi-Fi. The icon will dim, and then when Wi-Fi is disabled and everything's disabled until you turn it back on. You connect to the Wi-Fi setting in Wi-Fi network and settings. You walk or drive to a new location, or if you forget that you have turned it off, at 5 a.m. the next morning, it's going to automatically turn back on. And the other way you can get it back on, of course, is to restart your device. This 5 a.m. in the morning local time turn back on automatically. I don't understand it, but it's there. I recommend that people turn off their iPhone, iPad devices on a regular basis, because turning it off helps to keep it healthy. When you turn it back on, it goes through a setup routine and can correct any corruptions that you have on your device. Disconnect from Bluetooth, same thing. Open the control center and tap Bluetooth. The icon will dim and you're disconnected except for Apple Watch, Instant Hotspot, Apple Pencil and Handoff, etc., etc. And if Bluetooth is turned off, it's going to stay off until you turn it back on from the control center. You connect to Bluetooth accessories by going into Settings, Bluetooth. 5 a.m. rolls around the next morning, or you restart your device. Emergency SOS, iPhone only. I have some questions about this, but I tried it once and it does work. If you push the power button 5 times in a row, you're going to get emergency services and it'll call 911. I think you have a like 7-second thing to where you can say, oops, I shouldn't have done that, and turn it off. Otherwise, within 7 seconds, they're going to be notified. If you've gone into the health app and set up your emergency contacts, or if you have emergency contacts already set up in your contact list, those numbers will be called and they will get your location and they will be told you're in a situation. Also, some disable of your Touch ID on your phone so that if you're in a situation where somebody's attacking you, they no longer have control of your phone just because you're there. And in setting up your emergency SOS, you need to go into settings, emergency SOS, and from there it's really quite easy to set it up the way you want it. The iPhone keyboard is smarter. Now, being 75 years old, I use and having big fingers, I use a stylus to operate my phone. I do not operate my phone and send a message or search the internet using my one thumb. But for those people that can do that, you got this a couple good things here. First off, the keyboard being smarter means that it's going to monitor your messages, monitor what you do on Safari, and it's going to build a data bank of terms and what have you that have been recently used or you use all the time. And then when you go to use the keyboard, you're going to get suggestions pop up. Example there, a friend says, meet me at this restaurant, and the name of the restaurant. So you go to maps and you start to search for that restaurant, and the name of the restaurant pops up and it shows up on the map, and there you go. Using the keyboard with one hand, which was what I was talking about a minute ago, you can get the keys to slide over to one side or the other of your phone as you're holding it vertically and or horizontally, and then you can do the one finger or one thumb typing. This is what it looks like. And of course, to get out of the slide over where the keys are smaller but more accessible to one thumb, you can hit this little arrow and it takes you back to a normal keyboard. How do you activate that? You hold down the emoji key, and when you hold down the emoji key, it says, it shows you which little button to push so that you can put the keyboard more to the right or more to the left. This is a big thing for a lot of people. Apple's changed their compression format that they use. And so now if you want to store pictures or videos on your device, you can, quote, get twice as many as you did in the previous operating system, iOS 10. But again, you have to activate this feature because it's not activated by default. So you go to the Settings app, you select Photos, you select Optimize iPhone Storage, and there's a really good write-up about this at this website, cultofmac.com. And basically, I'm trying to show where you would be in your iPhone when you get to this portion in your settings, iPhone. This bar up here will express to you graphically what your storage looks like on your phone, and it'll be different colors for different categories: photos, videos, documents, etc. And if you want to make more room, then you can do offload unused apps. Nobody seems to know what unused apps means. Did you unuse it for a week? You haven't used it for a month. You haven't used it for a year or whatever. But yeah, Apple will use some kind of philosophy and unload those apps and put them back on the cloud for you, so you got more room to save other stuff on your device. When this calculating is finished, then you're going to get right up here in front of the word automatically offload, you're going to get some value. Like I show over here, save 7.2 megabytes. Okay, so that's how that works. Notifications. In the past, notifications have been a little bit scattered about and not organized in a way that makes it easy for you to go through the notifications and see what's going on. So now iOS 11 has put them all in one place, no separate tabs, and it's a pull down from the top of the screen to see everything at once. So anytime you want to see notifications, if you got your device on, put your finger at the top, just off the screen a little bit, and pull down, and you will see your notifications in one place all together. Right outside my window, I got some guy starting his motorcycle. Oh boy. Stop apps from begging for reviews. I like this feature. A lot of apps that you get, every once in a while you get a pop-up while you're using the app, or even if you're not using it, and they want you to review their app so that they can use your information to get more people to buy their app or get their app. So if you want to stop them from doing that, go to Settings, iTunes, and App Store, and hit the toggle switch from on to off. And you will get no more, oh, please give us a review. Live photos and video calls. Okay. You're in the middle of a FaceTime with somebody and you want to capture that moment. Okay, you can take a live photo. You press a little white button at the bottom left corner of the screen and it takes a photo of what's going on right then. And of course, in order for that to work, again, both you and the other person that you're FaceTiming with must be running iOS 11. and you must have live photos turned on in the settings. They will get a notification that they've been live photoed, all right? And if you want to prevent people from doing live photos of you, you can turn that off in the FaceTime settings. But you can still use on-screen recording of audio, and there's no notification that that's being done to you or that you're doing it to somebody else. Save web pages as PDF. Portable document format is really easy to use. I've done this a couple times already, and I like it. I've taken a note that I've made, which is actually quite a few pages of information that I copied off of the internet. I put it in the notes, and I saved it as a PDF. And then I made some notes alongside of it, and I've got it in my Files app, which is new with iOS 11. So it's similar to doing a screenshot, but it's really neat. You can share, you can send it in the email, you can do everything that you can do with a note, or you can do with a PDF. Also, when you hit that little square with the arrow pointing out of it, one of the options that you get is convert this to a PDF document. More information, go to this website, how to quickly save markup PDF, notes, web pages, etc. Lots of good information there. Siri, the voice is more natural and expressive. English translated words can phrases into other languages. All right, and Siri is again expanding what they're snooping on, because if you use Safari, News, Mails, and other iMessages, Siri is snooping in that and looking for behavior that makes it, quote, easier for you to use Siri or these other apps. All right. Siri works now with notes. And so you can use Siri to create a to-do list. You can use Siri to create reminders. You can use Siri to do account transfers and balances off of your banking app, if your banking app has been updated by the bank that you are dealing with. And of course, Siri will also work with QR codes. Quick reference codes is what I call those. And we'll take a look at a QR code in a second. The portrait mode supports optical image stabilization in iOS 11 and True Tone Flash, more skin tones that are natural and automatically identify and scan QR codes. I'm not a big photo guy, but this seems like this is a big step forward. On the right-hand side, you see settings, camera. You got to go in and set it up, and whether or not you want to keep normal photo or HDR. And over on the right-hand side, I have a standard QR code, and when you put your camera on it, it'll read it, and then it'll pop up with this little thing that says, call this number, it's my private phone number, or whatever. Really kind of neat. I haven't done a QR code yet. Now, there are some features that came out with iOS 11 that are only for iPad, and I want to talk about those for just a second. Some of them are like into the iPhones, but some of the differences I'll try to talk about here. All right, your dock provides quick access to your favorite apps, recently used apps, and that's pretty much standard between both devices. The dock resizes so you can add all your favorite apps. I don't know that does that on the phone. Recently used apps are on the right-hand side. Enhanced slide over apps and enhanced slide over and split view is available from your iPad by just using your finger, drag and drop kind of thing. The slide over and background apps can run simultaneously. Apps and slide over and split view can be put on either side of the screen. Drag and drop. Move images and text and files between apps on an iPad. Multi-touch. You can move more than one item at the same time. You can do markups on the iPad with PDF, web pages, photos. Create a PDF and markup of anything that can be printed. That's really neat. The Notes app. You can search for handwritten text now if you have handwritten notes. You can use the Notes app as a scanner. I used this the other day as a scanner, and it worked very well because it does autocorrect for filters and shadows and skewing. Notes also has improved text formatting in the tables, lines and grids, handwriting, pin notes, etc. So now when you're putting something in Notes, it comes out a whole lot better, looking a whole lot better than in previous operating systems. The Files app is new, okay? And you can use it to organize your files, which could be notes, pictures, whatever. And you get a recents view on your file app. And you can browse, and the browse allows you to pull down documents from either iCloud, iDrive, or Drive rather, and Dropbox. I use all three of those. And so I've already used my file app and pulled down different documents from these 3 different cloud organizations. So they say, being Apple, says that the Files app will work with any cloud organization. The only 3 I have is iCloud, Drive, which belongs to Microsoft, and also Dropbox. QuickType. The keyboard on the iPad looks the same, except now we have some numbers, symbols, etc. Above each letter that's on there. And now if you want to add a comma or a slash or some other symbol or punctuation, you don't have to go to a separate keyboard. You can just put your finger on the key where that separate number or symbol is and pull down a little bit, and then it's inserted. I've used it a couple times. It takes a little bit getting used to. It's not automatic for me anyway, but I like it. And if you haven't tried it, try it. Again, it's a new feature that keeps you from switching keyboards. But if you like to get your numbers from the other keyboard, then all you have to do is touch the 1, 2, 3 in the corner of the keyboard, and it'll switch you over to the numbers keyboard. And you can do it that way. I'm still in the old habit of when I'm typing in a telephone number or a long string of number digits that I switch over to the number keyboard. A lot of people have complained about iOS 11 and a power drain. And the power drain is real, but there's something you can do about it. Go to settings and go to battery and check and see what battery tells you about the usage of your battery in the last 24 hours or in the last 7 days. And on that display, you'll see a small clock icon on the right-hand side. And if you touch that, it'll give you a detailed breakdown of how much time that app has been using up your battery on screen and also in the background. A lot of people don't realize that you've got apps that are working in the background and they eat up your battery. So you have to check that out and find out what's going on. And then disable that app from working in the background, or disable all apps from working in the background. And you go to settings, and you can make that adjustment. I've turned off, on my iPad, I've turned off background work being done completely. And again, I go to settings, and I go to general, and I go to background app refresh and turn it off. When you get to background app refresh, you got an on-off switch at the top, and so no apps are working in the background for me. You do have a low power mode. It isn't new, but now it works with fetch and push and background app refresh and auto downloads and more. So the low power mode is smart. Now, if you are doing email on your iPad, iPhone, you need to have it in fetch mode instead of push. Push means that every time there's a mail that comes into your mailbox, it's going to be pushed down to your device. Fetch means every time you go and open up the mail on your device, it'll get the mail in your mailbox. I have all 7 of my emails in the fetch mode. You can turn on low power mode by going to the control center, etc. And that's it. Gee, I did pretty good for time. I've got 2 minutes left. Is that right?
Close enough.
Close enough, if you have any questions or you want more information, please feel free to email me.